Hello. Hello, Siri.
Oh, really?
What? Hello. Welcome to Tawagoto Café. This is episode 11.
Oh, we're already at 11?
We are already at 11.
Okay. What were the past two about? Well, the ninth was already released on YouTube.
Yeah, the 10th will be. We are recording episode 11, and 10 will be released very shortly. And
Okay.
this is like the pre-episode talk. But we are actually live on Twitch. Hello, and welcome to the one viewer that we have currently. But
We have one viewer.
yes, we have actually
Wow.
we actually have one viewer right now.
People actually watch this show.
Yes. Well, usually it takes up until like the first 30 to 40 minutes for me to get a viewer, but lately there's always at least like one.
Have you tweeted about this?
No, I don't usually
oh,
tweet Tawagoto stuff because
Okay.
not until it gets released, and I've actually forgot to do the one for episode 9. So
All right. No wonder I was like, I'm forgetting something.
yeah, we
Oh.
one of us forgot to. Well, I wasn't expecting you to do it, but I forgot to tweet episode 9's release post.
I tweeted about dosas.
About dosas. All right, let's start the stream by talking about bread.
And dosa is. It's not bread per se.
Isn't it a
It's hard
flatbread?
to call. It's not. It's made with rice and lentils. It's not made
Oh,
with
okay.
It's closer to a pancake. People call it a crepe.
A
It's
crepe.
just a dosa.
The only thing I can think about is like cassava pancakes, like okoi.
Those are fairly different. That's a different texture. Dosa is. Dosa batter is fairly smooth,
Mhm.
but not that smooth. It's fairly smooth, and then it's also fermented. So
Oh, okay, interesting. So it really is just like a bunch of legumes that have just been like ground,
legumes and grains.
ground, and then fermented, and then turned into like this dough.
It's not a dough. It's a batter.
Oh, okay, so it's liquid. Okay, that's
It's
interesting.
liquid.
So, what do you usually have it with?
Spiced potatoes and then chutneys.
Oh,
It's the usual thing that you have with a dosa. And the ones in like in Maginhawa, in Little India, well, that's the very first time I've ever had a dosa. So there's nothing for me to compare it to, but I like what I ate.
uh-huh.
Except my only issue was like, okay, there was the sambar, which is like a tomato-ish soup dip.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the coconut chutney. But the coconut chutney was a bit thin, in my opinion. At least for that dosa. But I liked the dosa. It had potatoes in it, and then it was crispy. It was nice and sour.
Ah, it was sour. That's it. That's an
It,
interesting.
it's it's the fermentation. It's the fermentation.
Yeah.
As I tweeted, it was like it tasted like injera, and I've never had injera before. This is what injera would taste like in my mouth. And injera is like an Ethiopian distant cousin of the dosa, or at least not really the dosa per se, but there's another dish called the appam
Mhm.
in India, which is more closely related to injera than the dosa is to an injera. But the process is the same: fermented batter, which is very appealing to me for some reason. I don't know if you can do this with wheat. Then
Yeah, it won't be the texture will not be the same.
I don't know if you can do this with a wheat pancake batter.
Yeah, wheat is mostly starch, right? And I think having a batter with the higher protein content from legume stuff is going to be like very fundamentally different from a starch-based batter.
Yeah, actually, now that you mentioned the protein, like the protein complexes probably react differently with fermentation as opposed to like just starch and gluten complexes
Yeah,
like you get from wheat.
Yeah, it wouldn't be broken down as much because they're amino acid based, not carbohydrate based.
Yeah.
I actually wonder how exactly that would ferment at all because there's only so much carb in a bean, and essentially,
I think all the carb is eaten up from the rice.
or from the rice. Okay.
Yeah. So like you get it all from the rice, and then from there, the fermentation juju does something to the protein structure in the lentils, and then you eventually get the structure that you'd see once you start making the dosa. And
Mm-hmm.
you make the dosa like any crepe or pancake. You spread the batter all over a griddle.
From the picture, I thought it was gonna be like a thicker
No, no,
food,
no,
but
no, no.
it's thinner. So
It's not thick. It's not thick at all.
y- uh,
It's crisp.
yeah, it's crisp, and you said earlier that it
It's,
resembles more of a crepe more than a piece of flatbread.
yeah, it is. It's basically a crepe, actually. Like it's crepe in texture,
Mm.
crispy on the outside. Although there are, as you get to the center, it also gets a bit spongy, but not like thick spongy. Like half a centimeter of spongy texture. So it's
So
basically a pancake.
it's thinner than a John would be.
It's way thinner than a John.
Yeah, because a John
Way
is like
thinner.
you have to be like there's a significant like bite to it.
Yeah. For a dosa, it's more of a snap,
Uh,
like snap crunch. It's not a bite
so
crunch that you'd
let's say
expect.
you have one and then you fold it in half. It would like it would be like
It would
snappy.
shatter.
It would shatter. Okay. Well, that's
It would
interesting.
shat.
That's a very
It
like
would
nice
shatter, but it
crunch.
depends on where you fold it, because normally you either fold or roll a dosa.
Mm.
And like if you want to be fancy, you roll the dosa. But common presentation in Indian restaurants is that you just fold the dosa into a triangle with the filling inside, and then you just plop it on plate.
Mm.
I intend to eat more Indian food by the time I get back.
Yeah,
Eh,
let's go hang out at Little India again at some point because yeah, I
Mahirap
miss
nga
it
lang, mahirap nga lang maglakad.
from uh from the
It depends.
nearest like
It
transport
depends.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, because Little India is like smack dab in the middle of Malingap Street.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is.
So it's either you're coming in from Maginhawa,
It's actually farther
which
that way, I
is
think, right? Because I think it's
it's
closer
far.
to Kalayaan.
Yes, it is. You're better off dropping yourself off at Malingap Street in Kalayaan itself, and then walking.
Like I realized that nung ano nung uh when I was still in my previous workplace and somebody made invited us to go to Tomatokick.
Saan yun?
It's mas malapit sa Kalayaan. It's closer to Kalayaan than where Little India already is.
Okay.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's basically
but
it's
also yeah,
almost
I have to like point it out. Also, sort of rip tomato cake, although something replaced it.
Mhm.
They're called potato cake now, as far as I know.
So they just went from one. So they just went from a fruit to a tuber.
Yeah, well, hindi. Kasi nangyari is, I think what
What do they
happened
specialize in?
is that yeah, tomato cake had to close. They couldn't afford to stay open anymore because of the
They
pandemic.
couldn't afford the tomatoes.
No. The place itself closed down. Potato cake is not a restaurant in the traditional sense anymore. It's a buy
It's a potato
order.
shack.
It's a buy order food business as far as I know it is.
It's a potato shack.
You have to go in and ask for food in advance because you can't. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
I should probably look it up. Wait now. I'm not sure if Potato Kick actually now has a dine-in space because it didn't have it before.
They just changed business models.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's delivery only. So
That makes sense.
it's the food from Tomatokick, but it's they just don't have a physical space anymore.
And they decided to rebrand from potato to tomato.
From tomato to potato cake, yeah.
Yeah, from tomato to potato.
Yeah. And that was because like so many people when the news broke that Tomato Cake was going to close,
Hmm.
like everybody who like among our age group who had such an extreme nostalgic connection to it tried to pitch in money to save it from closing. It didn't happen.
Hmm.
But I think the proprietors were like, at least we can do this. At least we can sell the food.
It's still a business.
It is
So
still a business. It exists in some fashion still.
yeah, they still sell. So if they sell, then there's no problem with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's go.
To the main topic of this episode. Okay, so
Yep.
you came to me with this with the proposition. What proposition? The premise of this specific episode of Tawagoto
Yep.
by posting something on our internal channel, and it is a video extract. I'm not sure if this is from the show itself, actually. Of
It's a video. Yeah, it's from the show itself.
Yeah, this is the problem with Jon Stewart. It is a talk that Jon Stewart has with a guest, Kendra Pierre Louis.
Yeah, like the problem with Jon Stewart is currently an Apple TV Plus podcast series,
Oh, it's a podcast. Is that a
and
show? Okay.
it's not a show actually. It's more of no. It has multiple components. It's a show. It's a podcast, and it has all of the juicy parts, the behind the scenes stuff, and all of the extended interviews are all on YouTube. So
Oh, good.
bless Jon Stewart's team for that, because he knows very well that Apple is Apple.
Yeah, and like Apple
Eh,
TV material always falls under some form of real exclusivity thing.
Yeah, so having it on YouTube is great. So yeah, that's the video that I linked, and it talks about primarily fossil fuels with Jon Stewart with Kendra Pierre Lewis. And well, what do you think? What do you think? Did I actually want to talk to you about this?
What specifically me?
Yeah, what did you think that I actually wanted you to wanted us to talk about this?
I expected us to be talking about one of two things.
Okay.
One is the situation regarding the transition away from fossil fuels to electric and other
Okay.
alternative fuels, especially because you know that I work as a air pollution scientist.
Yep.
So I thought that you might want my perspective on such a thing. And second is the value of staying and at least thinking about ways to remain optimistic in a climate crisis, because I watched the video of this of John's, and
What do you think about it?
it to me gave me an idea that one, the transition has to happen sooner than later. Two, America is just a lot of a screwy place than no, not screwy, complex place is what I want to say. I don't want to put a value judgment to it, because yes, I know people react negatively about it, but in at the heart of it, America is, well, the U.S. is a very complex society, and there are things that are specific to it. And I'd like to be able for us to talk about things that are specific to the Philippines later on in the discussion. And three, optimism is not overrated. It's there are things that only happen if you're optimistic enough. And that's, I think I realized that maybe we shouldn't be thinking about climate change as a problem, but well, no. We shouldn't be thinking about the measures to adapt to climate change shouldn't be thought of as a problem based approach, but a solution based approach.
That's essentially also the thesis that Pierre Lewis was making in the video.
And I realized that,
Although,
hey, I know how people talk about climate anxieties and things like that, but and I'm having this burnout almost about having to listen to people talk about how bad people are. And yes, I know it's objectively true, but at the same time, like, things won't change if we don't have the mentality to want to even begin to change it. So that's something I want to discuss later when
that's
when we do come
that's
to that.
that's really aligned to the cynicism argument there, like optimism versus cynicism argument. But yeah, let's talk about the climate uh, measures that we're trying to uphold here in the country.
Hmm.
Since okay, so what can you talk about Naba with regards to ano?
Oh, me?
Kasi you know that as of very recent, as of recording of this video, there is already legislation being developed for electric cars. It's even on the news now, actually.
Yes, yes. It is very hot topic.
So what about it?
So
Guide us through it.
yeah,
At least the things that you can talk about.
okay. So at the recording of this video, a piece of legislation is about to reach the president's desk if it's not already there. It
It's already
is.
there,
It's
actually.
already there. It needs either to it needs the president to either pass it or veto it, and we are expecting some passages to pass. Sorry, some provisions to pass and some to be vetoed. But in general, we are expected to pass because it is such a critical law for us to be passing. It's called the environmental. Sorry. Oh, I am a professional. Okay. It is called the Electric
Go on, go
Vehicles
on, go on.
Industry Development Act,
Hmm.
and it talks about what the Philippines is going to be doing in the next few years up until, let's say, the short term, the medium term, and the long term, in terms of the transition of uh, the country to electric vehicles. It talks about incentives that the government is planning on giving the public transport sector, the private car owners, but businesses also adopting EVs for their fleets, and it also provides provisions for what the government will do in terms of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Um, but the details of which are very still in progress right now, and that's the nitty gritty of it is the things that I can't really talk about on stream.
Okay.
But we are in talks with the government right now in terms of negotiating our recommendations as part of the scientific community as to, hey, this is what we observed about the market, this is what we observed about public transport, this is what we observed about individual owners, about the private sector, logistics specifically, and also tourism, and also the idea that existing tax legislation is actually going to intermingle with this, such as the Create Law.
Hmm.
The Create Law and because the Create Law is basically just train, but the train law,
Train,
but
but
more,
for
yeah. No, it's just like the successor to the train law.
oh, it's just a successor to train law. I thought it had more like environmental provisions.
No, Create is purely a tax law.
Okay.
So if train was the previous admin, Create is today is this admin. So
Hmm.
there is that. The thing that I'm getting at least my observations from it, is that one, there are very definite anxieties that people have about the transition to electric vehicles, specifically the fact that I think the most dominant of which is range anxiety. Uh,
What?
Range anxiety. It is a very specific term
Okay.
that is specific to electric vehicles. What is it? It is the this an anxiety people have that the
Basically, the
capacity of their electric vehicles is not
vehicles
going to be
to
enough for them to finish all of their trips as
so
required.
mileage is insufficient,
Yeah,
basically.
mileage. Yeah, uh, and I think one of the ways that we need to address this is that yes, EVs are not that how to explain this? They're not. They don't operate the same way as ICE EVs, which is internal combustion engines, that you can just like stop at one place and then just refuel. That's not how that works. But at the same time, there are technologies that allow us to almost replicate that kind of experience with fast charging. But in general,
But are they in market?
yeah, in generally, electric vehicles have improved so much that I think in terms of like consumer, like the regular person is not going to have a problem with range. Not anymore.
But are they in market already?
Yes, actually, yes.
Okay, good.
The problem is that we don't have enough. Not yet. The market share for EVs is not high enough yet. That's the biggest takeaway that we have.
Wait, so we're just not yet used to the concept of having electric vehicles at least. But this is just private ownership, diba?
Yeah, what I mean is specifically, manufacturers are not confident in bringing EVs to the Philippines because
Because they're not gonna sell yet.
yeah, because they're not gonna sell yet. And
So
I actually have info about the specific manufacturer that I can't mention.
yeah, don't disclose any.
I cannot disclose it because these are industry things that I cannot disclose.
Yeah,
But
but
the idea is that eventually, once the infrastructure is there, I think so. That's why the government is going to prioritize actually the building of charging infrastructure, and the research on that on the local end is actually really really good because shout outs to University of the Philippines EEE for the e-mobility division of EEE for developing peripherals for faster charging of electric vehicles. That design is actually being used right now in Quezon City
for which vehicles?
for e-trikes and
Okay,
e-bicycles.
good.
So
Wait,
that infrastructure is also compatible with four wheelers as
wait.
well.
Is the legislation that's already on the desk covering a general broad spectrum of electric vehicles, or does it separate? Does it make a distinguish? Does it distinguish between the private ownership and public transport?
No, it is primarily a financial instrument. It is primarily a tax incentive.
No. As in, not the create law.
No,
I'm
no,
talking about the
Evida,
electric
Evida.
vehicles. Oh, really? It's just tax.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. The from what I can tell, most of the provisions of Evida is actually financial in nature, not just tax, but also like subsidies and
Okay.
modifications to tariff laws.
So this is just like to allow for the importation of electric vehicles into the country and much easier production as well of electric vehicles into the
Yes,
country.
yes, that is exactly that. So the law. Let's clear up something really quick then. Evida, the Electric Vehicles Industry Development Act, which I'll just call it Evida from now, so I don't have to say the entire thing every time.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Evida is primarily structured in a way so that we have the capacity to bring in EVs from overseas. It is to make sure that public transport and private owners will have an easier time from the government to register to tax duty their electric
Is there a
vehicles.
tax incentive to getting
Yeah,
an electric
tax and
vehicle?
financial rebates and incentives.
Okay.
So it's primarily like we are spending this much government money so that EVs can come in,
Hmm.
and that's already huge actually.
In terms of environmental impact, what parameters can you
For
say compared to
environmental,
here?
this isn't note that this is just specifically the entrance of electric vehicles into the country. It doesn't say where the electricity is going to come from.
but long term,
Long term, we are also conducting studies in terms of what this is going to do to our electric grid.
yeah,
And
that's also another problem that I'd like to raise it because like, can our grid take it?
short answer is maybe. Oh no, well, slightly longer answer is yes, only in some areas.
Yeah, because as you know, we don't exactly have a robust electrical grid per se.
But that will
We
change.
still,
That is planning. The electrical sector in the country is also planning on expanding the grid to certain areas to increase, intensify electrification. We have targets for 20 every 5 years from 25, 30, 2035, and so on up until 2040. So there is progress going on, especially in Visayas. I think the Visayas plan that I've read is actually one of the most detailed electrification plans that I've actually read, which is
well, they actually do need it to be honest. But that also raises another question of how robust that could be against the usual typhoon season. But
yeah, there is that. But as it is, I think the more pressing question for electrical sources would be, where is it going to come from? Is it going to We need to make sure that renewable energy actually starts becoming a thing in the next 3 years, because
how dependent are we currently on fossil fuels?
on coal specifically, coal
Yeah.
is dirty money. It makes politicians money.
What percentage are we? What percentage are we dependent
I
on?
cannot say that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Rough estimate. Rough estimate.
Rough
Like
estimate.
compared to renewables.
To compare to renewables, I think I'd say 80% fossils.
Okay, so we're still largely dependent on them.
And note that the one not fossil fuel source we have is geothermal. The biggest
Yeah,
the biggest uh
I mean we don't really have much of a
non coal
choice on that end.
is geothermal energy.
We don't really have much of a choice on that end naman eh. Like wind farms are hard to set up, relatively speaking. Solar, on the other hand, also requires a lot of infrastructure, like you need a lot of surface area just to do solar.
Oh wait. I have numbers. I have numbers.
Okay,
Because,
okay.
because
Go.
I cannot be wrong about this. Like this is something that I can okay. According to this source that I'm reading,
What's the source site?
it's Statista,
Okay.
in cooperation with Ember Climate. Okay, so
When was it taken?
2020.
Okay, it's fairly recent.
Coal is half,
Hmm.
but I think
Okay.
my eighty
Coal is
percent
yeah.
my 80% estimate was correct, but not because it's all coal. 50% is coal, 17% is gas,
Okay, so we still have some gas in
and
there as well.
11% is other fossil fuels. So that's
That's still
seventy eight
roughly 80%.
percent, seventy eight
That's still roughly
percent
80%.
fossil fuels, and hydro is 8%,
Yeah.
and other renewables. And I think this is where the geothermal and biogas is. Oh, bioenergy is 1%, so 11% for other renewables.
Hmm.
And I think this number has got to go down, especially coal. Natural gas, maybe. I think if we're able to tap into West Philippine Sea resources, I think we're still going to be good on gas. But coal has got to be reduced. I think that's just my opinion. I think.
Yeah, coal is the most damaging here. So you mentioned like we already have a laid out plan with regards to okay, how are we going to transition to renewable energy and then electric vehicles as well?
I actually don't have information about that because our study is only focusing on the entry of EVs and not necessarily how the government is going to transition away from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources.
Okay, so instead of that, what's your outlook
My
on
outlook
that?
is that next admin is going to be critical. Like the one of the things that is going to be very pivotal in the next 6 years is what the next admin's climate policy is going to be. And I think this hinges on a bunch of factors. One, how hardline is the next admin going to be in cutting down our coal consumption? Two, how much uh, effort and money, especially, is this next admin's government willing to spend on the transition to renewable energy?
Hmm.
And three, what is the next government going to do for our nickel reserves? That is a very specific
Well,
topic that I like to touch on. Nickel.
okay, so let's get to the nickel first. Why nickel?
Nickel is a resource that is abundant in the Philippines, and
Hmm.
the price of it. Sorry, let's talk about what it's used for first. It is used for the construction of uh, renewable lithium ion batteries and other batteries that are being used for electric vehicles. So if your device uses batteries, chances are nickel has something to do with it.
Hmm.
The price of nickel has gone sky high ever since February 2022 due to the Ukraine crisis.
So you're thinking that we should step up in terms of nickel mining?
Here's the thing. Uh, the Philippines is now in a very strategic place in terms of what are we going to do in the future. Is the price of nickel still going to continue to be high by the end of this year or past at the end of this year? We don't know.
Hmm.
Geopolitical stuff is always messy. Wartime economy. I can't believe we're talking about like legitimate wartime economy because this is a wartime economy.
Well, it's a wartime economy in the sense that we're not actively part of the war. It's just that because of how global our economy already is, if there is a major, well, I it's hard to call it a major war per se
Not yet, anyway.
because no. It's because we're on like this is another topic altogether, but we're only looking at Ukraine now, even though there's been wars everywhere else. It
Oh
just so
yeah,
happens that the Ukraine war is big because
Russia is
it
involved. Global economic
Russia
sanctions
is
are involved. NATO is
yeah
involved.
yeah, and so it sort of sucks in that perspective. But
Yeah,
in that
petroleum
sense,
prices are sky
we are
high.
in a wartime. We are in a wartime economy. Like I was walking down from SM, di kami,
Mhm.
from SM, and like nakita ko yung Shell. The Shell's diesel was like 62 pesos. It was like, wow.
Yeah, this
I've never
happened.
seen it.
This happened in a span of 1 month.
I've never seen it go that high. The last time I saw gas prices, diesel was 50,
At some point,
not
our diesel
63.
prices were like what 40 something at some point
Yeah,
before.
they were for yeah. So like, wow, that that's huge. That's a huge impact on transport in general. And I'm like, so I'm still learning how to drive, but with these gas prices,
Yeah, the
what
gas
for?
prices, the gas prices. Yeah,
Like,
petroleum prices have gone sky high. Nickel prices have also gone sky high, and so yeah, going back to nickel.
mm,
There has there is a the I don't know. Should I name drop? Because like I feel like we're going to align ourselves politically if I say this.
try to just allude to whoever that is.
Okay, so I've only been
Don't
able
don't be
to
specific.
glean
Don't be specific.
info about possible climate policy from one candidate so far in our presidential race,
Okay.
and their policy basically in one word
Do
I
you
will
like it or? Do you like it or do you not like it?
In one word, I will describe it as expensive.
Okay.
And in more words, I would say that I am very suspicious of it because I don't know if this kind of extractive policy is good for our country, both in terms of the environment and in
What
terms of
are
where the money is
what are they
actually going to go.
what are they proposing to extract?
Nickel.
Okay.
For nickel.
So I
So
do agree that it's a strategic move, but the thing is, we have a history of mining that tends to not be good, per
yeah,
se.
see this. Yeah, we are as much as we have to acknowledge that the Philippines is a global south country. And
Yeah,
extractive resource mining in the global south is just exploitative at
yeah, it's
best.
exploitation. I mean, first of all, where are the nickel mines? Where are the nickel ores located? Where are the nickel deposits in the country?
Mostly in the mountainous
That's
areas, I think. Uh,
mountainous areas where? Because we have lots of
Cordillera, Mindanao.
mountains.
As far as I know,
So the
that's I think what
Cordillera,
it is. Yeah.
so Cordilleras will be a classic point of contention. So so background lang rin because we, at least for Filipinos, we all know that the Cordillera mining is very hot topic simply because it's encroaching on indigenous land
Hmm.
most of the time. But in Mindanao, we have to be also fairly specific. Since not all mountainous areas in Mindanao are protected by indigenous peoples.
Hmm.
So there might be areas there that may be more favorable to mining than others.
Yeah, nickel reserves. I'm just going to try
Yeah,
and at
go
least be
go ahead.
accurate about this. So I'm gonna try. Okay, controversial. Oof. Okay, that's an interesting. Oh wait, so Cordillera is mostly copper pala.
Okay,
Copper mines pala sa
so
Cordillera.
leaving Cordillera out, where are our nickel
Ooh, interesting. This one says that Eastern Seaboard, Caraga.
Caraga?
Caraga, Tawi-Tawi.
That's that's another point of contention.
The Bangsamoro region.
That's way harder. Like I say, you'll have to negotiate with the Bangsamoro
Uh,
in
Sele,
order
Sele,
to.
you're down.
But
You could repeat what you just
hello,
said.
like we'd have to negotiate with the Bangsamoro
Hmm.
in order to properly mine there. We have to coordinate with the Bangsamoro
Hmm.
because that is like the Bangsamoro region is fairly is has a bit more autonomy compared to the rest of the Philippines,
Yep.
at least with regards to their own affairs. And so, if the government suddenly decides to like, we want to mine your nickel,
Hmm.
they'll obviously going to ask, okay, what do we get?
Okay.
And that's something that if they are going to push forward with nickel mining, they'll have to negotiate with the Bangsamoro region. On the other hand, though, if the negotiations go well, it is a good job generator.
Uh,
And if it's properly implemented, then the impact should be not as bad as we're expecting. But that's a big if.
okay. One research later, I found a pretty good summary of where nickel reserves are in this country. So let's go.
Okay.
Zambales,
Zambales region, okay.
Mindoro,
Mindoro,
Palawan,
Palawan.
especially the southern
Hmm.
Palawan.
So basically, our mid southern seaboard has a lot of nickel.
Yeah,
Min-
and most of the eastern seaboard of Mindanao.
So
No,
it's
this also includes the small islands like Dinagat Islands, which is already like this is a contentious point because Dinagat Islands is a one small province and second tourism.
well, you'd obviously want to avoid the tourist areas for mining.
some of the mines in Luzon have already been like closed because DNR has closed them down.
Yeah.
And a bunch of these mines have been like closed, especially because like DNR has like yeah. We're going to have to talk about Gina Lopez because this is under Gina Lopez's term. Gina Lopez was very. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Gina Lopez, but at least she had that very hardline stance against
Yeah, she had a very hard
extractive
line stance against
extractive
mining.
very exploitative extractive mining, and
Yeah.
she her DNR had a lot of nickel mines closed.
Yeah.
And maybe that's
But
why
thing
we haven't done much nickel mining in the recent years is because of specifically
is
what
because of that move that the DNR under Gina Lopez did.
yeah.
Now the thing is, if we were to restart the nickel mine is already there.
Yes.
But if you were to restart them, you would need to do ocular inspections of all of the sites, check in all of the equipment, and then go through all of the protocols again. Probably renew some of the mining protocols in order to be environmentally compliant.
Yeah, here's the thing.
Thing is, okay,
There's a certain irony that I want to point out here. Our
okay,
environmental compliance certificate is one of the strictest in all of ASEAN.
okay.
And
In
yet
term,
and
in
yet
with mining,
no, for everything. But
okay,
especially for mining. And yet for such a strict protocol, it's mostly bureaucracy, and if there is the will and there is the money, there is a way. And that's one of the most annoying things I've ever had to like deal with because like
so we
because
have extremely strict protocols, but you can bribe your way through them.
I'm just gonna
You're just
casually
gonna struggle.
just mention Pyrex in passing. The Pasig River Expressway project in passing. Just saying.
Okay, yeah,
Stuff like that.
that's a thing that we might want to address.
Something like also the possible Bulacan airport site, also owned by the same company.
I see.
Or
Uh,
I'm not name dropping the what company this is, but if you're
no need to.
yeah, if you know, you know.
Definitely. So in that case, then, so setting aside the nickel, what else? Like we know that nickel mining is it's a possibility.
Hmm.
It we've already done it. It's probably viable.
It will grow in this year and the coming years if the situation
Yeah,
continues to like be favorable towards us selling nickel.
yeah. So what were the other 2 points that we raised?
The other two
Like I
points is that okay, let's start with coal first. I think coal is the more important thing because coal is a significant source of existing cash flow and
yeah.
economic development in areas where uh,
How do we convince ourselves to move away from coal though?
here's the thing. Yeah, there is an uncomfortable intersection between politics and economy, or specifically business
Okay.
in this part of the world, especially like the coal companies, especially like the fossil fuel lobby, is already doing its jobs to make sure that they still remain in the market. And
Mhm.
honestly, like political benefactors for things like campaign funds, yeah, these tend to be like a thing. And it's like yeah, good luck convincing a politician, especially in the local scale of a coal mining town, to just stop wanting
Then
to
here,
operate this coal mining plant, a coal electricity plant there.
okay, here's the thing. Where do we get our coal?
Let's see. Do we have? How do we?
We need we need to know where do we get our coal first, and then we need to know the situation in coal plant towns.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to ask ourselves. Rather, we also need to ask them what else can they do apart from coal.
Ah,
that
I
would also.
see. It is very import heavy. We are very import heavy on coal.
Why are we importing coal? Is it because the tariffs on coal are fairly low?
Oh, that's something I should really look into then.
Yeah, we probably need to look into that because, well, I also see the necessity why, because we're primarily coal driven
Yeah, because
in terms
I don't think our country is that
of
we can
power.
produce that much coal anyway,
Because in terms of production, we produce more oil than coal
and gas actually. Then I think.
and gas. Oh, so our coal dependence is probably something that's been rooted for a fairly long time now, just as a way to extract, just as a way to produce electricity.
Yeah.
But thing is, if we want to move away from coal, we need to incentivize the areas that the coal plant areas and the jobs there, and we need to move them somewhere else. Thing is, because you cannot do a policy where you would say, okay, we need to ease out of coal. Let's stop doing coal now. That's not gonna happen. But you need to ease out of coal. It's in the word. You have to ease out of it.
Mhm.
So the thing is, how do you ease out of coal? What what else is in those communities that whose like workers are primarily powering those coal plants? Kasi that's also one of the things that we need to do in regards to shifting to renewable. You cannot shift to renewables if your transition policy from non-renewable to renewable is weak.
This is
You
definitely
need
like
to
the yeah. This is a near future and undertaking because seriously, I kind of had like a moment where I realized that petroleum, we have we probably reached peak oil several years ago, several decades ago even. And
hmm,
I feel like the way this is gonna happen is that we are going to be okay until suddenly we're not.
I mean, we probably do have a lot of oil reserves still.
It's just that I think that's exactly what's gonna happen with renewables. I think companies specifically that rely on it, like the global economy is going to rely on oil until one day it decides it can't and then just shifts. Because but the problem is I kind of feel like advancements in terms of new renewable energy or uh, renewable not renewable, rechargeable batteries specifically for electric vehicles are primarily driven less by uh, the environment and more of what's profitable and what isn't anymore.
I mean, that's how business works. It's always in profit. It's always in terms of profit, in terms of if the market changes its flavor of the decade, then that's pretty much how it's going to respond. At
Honestly,
least
that's the
that's
way
how
I
the
see it.
private. At least that's how the private sector does.
The way
Say
I
with
see
regards
it is
to
that out of a profit motive, the back half of this decade is going to be spent by a lot of companies around to suddenly transition hard into electric vehicles and
the
into
power,
possibly
yeah,
solar maybe.
yeah, but
If we're lucky, if I don't know, action must be like really aggressive on that front. I think.
it's going to be aggressive on that front, but the cost is going to be much greater than if they start changing their ways now. The human cost, at least, is
Mhm.
going to be much greater. Like I say, let's say some companies like Shell or Mobil decide by 2050, oh crap, we're out of oil. Okay, let's do a hard shift. But in that, we're already in 2022, so let's say 2050. In that 30 years
We might have already hit four
that, they,
degrees.
that they've spent milking the economy, you'd have coastlines disappearing, you'd have areas that are
Irreversibly
irreversibly polluted, at least not reversible
within one
within the
human lifetime
next
at least.
within the next 10 human lifetimes,
Ooh, okay.
within the next 10 human generations. So we might live to see that sudden shift, and then but the cost is going to be great.
Hi, yeah. And that's why I think that the immediate action needs to happen.
The immediate action is better for the short term. In fact,
Hmm.
even for the short term, the immediate action is going to be necessary. Because if you're only looking purely long, because if you're trying to convince everyone that the long term is going to be great, companies don't see long term. They only see profit short term.
And as long as there's a line to make go up, but as long as the line goes up, yeah, like I'm stealing that from Dan Olson. Like that's such a good metaphor because everything that we've ever done has always been to make a line go up.
Well, that's I think a bit more applicable to NFTs, to be honest. But since like they go to the moon, but that's a different topic altogether. Because
Yeah.
sometimes companies will generally, for the short term at least, make the line go down just to like deflate things a bit, and then so they could get things up again. But that's a different story.
Okay.
So out of like we're doing electric vehicle shifts, and I'll have to mention that my dad's pretty much psyched for the electric vehicles thing.
Yeah. Don't worry. Here's the thing. Our consumer preferences research has suggested that a lot of people actually do want to switch already.
Uh, Percentages. Give me percentages.
48%.
That's good. That's good. That what's the sample population like?
This we didn't conduct this survey, by the way. This is something that
Yeah, but
the Department of Energy did.
okay. So where did they sample? So what's the populace that they sampled from?
Mostly in metro.
Mostly metro. Okay, that's good because the majority
I don't know
of the
which
car.
cities, but I think the way they did it is that it's a wide spread of various cities in NCR, and mostly targeting working age individuals who own cars right now.
Okay, that that's good. So with that being said, though, let's now get into the optimism versus cynicism argument.
Oh,
The
I
optimism
should have
argument.
one more actually
Okay,
because
okay, okay.
renewable
Before
energy.
that,
My concern about this particular candidate's uh, I keep forgetting the words. The platform for energy is that we are going to basically place a bunch of RE everywhere. So yeah, solar plants here, wind plants here, uh, because the Philippines has a lot of sun. We are going to do a lot of solar energy like that. That's not even like a informed
that's
argument. It's like that's
that's
such
not
a
that's not energy policy.
yeah. It's like first of all, like I take issue with whatever that specific thing that I watched was because the Philippines, yes, it has quote unquote a lot of sun, but not all places in this country are suitable for the for for solar farms.
Exactly.
Like you have to think about things like what angle the sun is going to come up in your area is weather difficulty is going to impede the amount of available solar radiation you're going to get. Like these are things that you can't just willy nilly say that we're just gonna do because we're going to spend a bunch of money just dumping a bunch of solar plants everywhere, especially wind. Like wind especially is like suspicious because like
Like people go
wind,
like, oh, like the common thing about wind power in the Philippines is like, oh, we're a typhoon country.
yeah,
Typhoons have wind. We can do it. No.
That's not how it works.
No.
But I think the more concerning thing about wind energy IMO is that it's a more energy intensive source of energy than we expect. Like
So overall, it's not efficient.
it's not
It's not as
efficient. Yeah.
efficient.
So what I'm getting from this, like, very aggressively, we're going to spend a lot of money to build RE plants everywhere. Is that question? Where is the money going to? Where's what money are we going to spend for this? And I particularly am suspicious of this because it's coming from that specific candidate, because they have a very long history of debt accumulation.
Okay.
Like we have had to deal with what is, I think, trillions of debt, trillions in pesos,
Like,
not dollars, but um, a lot of it has come from World Bank.
yeah, yeah. Anyone can see who you're talking about at least. But the thing is, what I'm thinking about here is okay. So, uh, fiscal finances aside, where are the viable areas that we could plant the solar farms in? Because because you mentioned that okay, we need to know, you need to be able to do proper planning in order to
Mhm.
set up a solar farm.
I have limited.
Where in the Philippines are the viable areas for solar farms?
I also don't know that, like, off the top of my head as well, but I do
Okay.
know that Central Luzon specifically has been an interesting test bed using especially Pampanga.
Okay, the problem with Central Luzon, because I was also thinking it's the perfect place. We have the field, we have the plains there. The thing is,
It is a floodplain.
where do we grow our agriculture then?
Oh, no, no, no. So it's not meant to replace, like, agricultural lands. So the thing is, I think the way this is designed is that the solar plants are flanking already existing large scale urban developments in the area. Think
Okay,
like Clark.
so then you'd have to perform a few tests over the course of the plan itself. How viable? How will it affect the local infrastructure? How will it affect the local communities, etc.? Because well, having a few, so I don't know off the top of my head, but
The
if there
idea
are
is
any
that I think there are
if,
large swaths of land in Pampanga that are owned by
okay,
big companies, and they are just using that land to be for solar companies to come in and say, "Hey, you can build. This is a huge piece of land I'm not using. Just put solar panels in there."
okay, so that's fairly viable. And then now we get to the topic of the fiscal policy, and the fiscal policy there is essentially non-existent thanks
The
to
loans. Yeah, look, I am almost 100% certain that if such an aggressive renewable energy policy is going to happen, it's going to be funded by foreign money.
that's the problem. We can't let it be funded by foreign money. But the thing is, if we're going to fund it with local money, it's going to have to come from somewhere. Now, in an ideal world, we could get that money from somewhere that is not just directly from the people,
From tax. Oh, okay. Go on.
but from well, it's from tax. It's from tax from that particular, yeah. But we do not live in an ideal society. So,
Yeah.
because that happened in the first place. So, in that case, who will shoulder the development costs? If we are not going, if we are going to say that we can't, or if the World Bank says we can't keep on taking out loans,
Hmm.
who will shoulder the costs? That's the thing. It's going to be us, basically. What percentage of it, though, is going to be taken from us is gonna be another set kind of worms. And unfortunately, while you work environmental policy, you're not exactly in the nitty-gritty of things. I, on the other hand, am a translator.
Wait,
I
wait,
have
what does that have to do with anything?
no. That's the thing. I don't have any. It doesn't have. I don't have anything to do with it. I don't know how to do
Yeah,
the math with regards to the policy,
yeah,
with regards
yeah.
to
It's
taxation policy.
yeah. I don't work in fiscal policy. It's just
Yeah,
that yeah.
you don't work in fiscal policy either. So this is a fairly case of how, if we are going to go renewables, and if we are going to go renewables aggressively, how are we going to deal with the cost?
It's such a like catch this like a like an impact. There's a certain impasse to it. Like what it's a very difficult argument to make as to one, either we get it from loans or we get it from tax, and like that if we're going to be getting it from tax, then people are already going to be like really uh affected by it because we are already having such a big issue with tax collection in the Philippines as in the first place because
And actually, also, like to go back to the electric vehicles thing, one thing that concerns me really is the fact that we're going to push for electric vehicles, but we don't really still have the infrastructure to support an electric vehicle economy.
and that's not just talking about making sure
Like
that
the
there are charging stations around, making sure that our charging vehicle standards are consistent. Oh, that's actually one of the bulk of the research that we've had to. A lot of the research that we've had to be doing recently involves the cost of owning an electric vehicle, and we have had trouble trying to figure out an exact number at this point because we have to make very specific predictions. Uh, because it's gonna be really interesting policy recommendations to people. Like we need to convince our government that, or this specifically the people who will be owning these cars, that this is not going to be a cost sink. And this is because there's a certain hesitation. For example, e-trike programs, electric tricycle programs, have been in a bit of a bad reputation in recent years, as far as I am concerned, because a lot of these like PUV, public utility vehicle, public transport vehicle modernization programs have been drawing flack from transport groups due to how it seems like the government is like almost content with just making poor people who are actually using these vehicles shoulder the costs. And the
I
same
mean,
was true with the electrification of like there are certain cities there that tried to experiment with getting a public transport fleet for electric tricycles, and that did not go well.
minsan mo tayo nagkukulang eh. Let's We need to take a step back. Saan tayo nagkukulang sa when it comes to electrification of public transport?
We are
Kasi transport groups are taking issue with it because there's an issue. What's the issue?
the issue is that the government is wanting to do all of these big landmark programs, but it doesn't have the money to spend.
And why don't we have the money to spend it?
That's actually the question I don't know the answer to.
Exactly.
That's where the speculation comes in.
Yeah, that's where we it's all lumped together in graft and corruption, which is pretty much mostly true, but
Yeah,
then
it's
you'd
always
have to,
the graft and corruption for sure.
yeah, it's always the be all end all, eh. Which now leads to our next point with regards to optimism and cynicism. Eh. How are we going to implement these? How optimistic are we that we are able to implement this properly?
Like I know I hate to say this, but
Okay.
it's I do not expect next admin, not even if whoever candidate we support actually does win the election, and that's something I want to discuss out of stream because
Okay.
this involves very speculatory information that I do not want to say on in public. is that the transition away from from ICEVs, the internal combustion engines, it's not going to be easy. It's the especially in public transport. Public transport, especially because the transport, uh, transport is a blue collar job here, and the blue collar job have always been, for some reason, taking the biggest L's. I hate to use like Zoomer word. That's I'm being affected by the internet. They've been taking the most L's.
Yeah,
Because
that's
like
fine.
the government is still not look, there have been calls to increase the minimum wage for more than two admins at this point, and it still has not happened.
Hmm.
Like seriously, there are still legal ways in this country for you to somehow pay people less than minimum wage, and it's still legal.
Hmm.
Like what's it called? Yung tawag doon? Yung
The what?
like putting them under like a shell company or whatever that it's actually called.
Front shell company, front company, same thing.
Yung parang cooperatives, like the way like
Co-op
most like security guards or
agency.
janitorial agencies, yeah, the job agencies, like because they take a cut, I think,
Yep,
from
they do.
everyone's salary. What happens is the individual person actually somehow manages to earn less than minimum wage.
Yeah, because the agency has to take a cut.
So it's like we get you a job, but you have to be paid less than minimum wage, and it's somehow still legal. And it kind of, and things like we still have not figured out how to solve short term contracts, contractualization of jobs, and going back to transport, because this is what it boils back down to.
Hmm.
We expect, like, our public transport policy, especially what I've been handling, or at least the things that I'm learning about in terms of when public utility vehicles are modernized, when jeeps are being modernized, when tricycles are being modernized. A lot of those situations, in a lot of those situations, the lugi ang super ang the the drivers and people who work in the transport sector are always getting the short end of the stick, because there's simply not enough financial incentive for them to actually um, proceed with the plan that the government wants them to take. Like, yes, we want you to purchase these better vehicles because we want to make
They
our
can.
make the vehicles better, but they can't. They simply cannot afford it.
Tapos sasabihin nila kulang sa government subsidy. Sasabihin ng government,
Hindi sila
ikaw pala
they're
ang
anti-progress.
oo. Eh, thing is, if the government promises a subsidy, it should be enough to cover for the expenses. They can't just promise, okay, this is what we'll give you. Good luck.
Yeah, and people frame it like the general. What I hate about this the most is that the general public frames it. We are so used to the capitalist narrative already that
Magaling magpropaganda kasi. It's
that
part, it's media propaganda rin kasi.
that like are these people just asking for handouts? Like like seriously, like if
If you
you
look at
knew what kind
America,
of costs go into these, like, and then you
if you look,
expect people, like, you can't just tell a poor person to buy a car with their own money that they don't have.
oh, true.
It's that simple.
Things kasi, if you look at America, for example, actually, our media cycle and America's media cycle are very, very similar. Uh, it's that kind of line of thinking is partly perpetuated by our own media. That's the thing.
Protestant work ethic, ganun. Because
No, no, no. Well, it's not really a pro. It's slightly different dito sa Pinas.
Because
Kasi in the US,
that's
it's
the lens that
dominated.
I'm mostly working off of. But in your case, I think you were trying to imply something else.
No, 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 no. It's more of kasi in the US, it's the Protestant work ethic plus the prosperity gospel. That's what drives.
Yeah, prosperity gospel. Yeah, I was going to like put that in somewhere because that's like
That's the main driving force with regards to the American capitalistic sentiment. Here in the country, here in the Philippines, it's a bit different. Kasi our one part of it is the antagonization of the Reds,
yeah,
quote
yeah.
unquote. Pero there's something else in there that makes us just like the American line of thinking that we have to pull ourselves by our bootstraps. Well, I think in our case, it's more of the discarte mindset.
The hustle mindset. Yeah.
Hustle mindset kasi tayo eh. And we've been doing hustle way before America.
Oh, by necessity, we've had to.
We've had to hustle way before America has by necessity. Eh. And that's one thing that I think has ingrained into us that we work for it, therefore we deserve it. Eh.
Ito din
That's
kasi
one thing.
I think the whole Filipinos are pasaway mentality is actually directly a consequence of that.
Yeah.
And I think like the idea that so what so sorry I'm just trying to assemble my words here. This is why
Go
I
on, go on.
edit my podcast episodes because a lot of it is basically just me going stammering over my words.
Yeah, I prefer unedited.
Yeah, but I
That
think
that way you could see the thought process go on.
well, there is a little bit of authenticity about that. But what I'm saying is there is an element in terms of the idea that we have to pull ourselves by our own bootstraps because what is it? I had a thought and then just went away. I'm trying to assemble it and I forgot what it was. It's a combination of what is it? And also, are you still here?
What?
I thought your internet disconnected for a sec.
No, 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 no. I'm just looking on Twitter.
Okay. There is a sense that wait, what was it? Oh wow, I'm really blanking out here. Like I had a thought
Like,
that it just completely disappeared.
like concerning the discarte mindset and all
Yeah,
hustle culture that we've been ingrained
yeah, the hustle
in
culture.
even way before everyone else was.
What is the specifically Filipino thing about our hustle culture that isn't the same in America?
Good question.
Well, I just
Kasi
remember.
ano eh,
Go on, go on, go on.
kasi it's like okay, I actually don't think naman na we predated America's hustle culture because they've been promoting hustle culture before it was called hustle culture in the guise of the model minority and the media promotion of this African American made it up to the top. So
Oh,
why
this
can't
just
you?
reminds me of the first wave of Filipino immigration to America.
Oh, isa pa yun. Isa pa yun.
There was so much going on in California.
Yeah.
That's a really
In
messy
a
history
sense, like
too.
it's a really messy history, and you can't really discount as well
Oh yeah,
the
but
Filipino
yeah, I
American
think
struggle in
the
that.
big
Yeah.
difference concerning the U.S. and us and here the Philippines, I think, is the way we think about haves and have nots are different.
Okay, go on.
So in the U.S., because a significant portion of the Jon Stewart video has to
Mm.
do with the presenters talking about race, and we are very it's a very critical race theory heavy discussion because you cannot take the race discussion out of America. You just can't.
Yes,
But in
it's
here,
ingrained to them.
it's not necessarily a race discussion because the Philippines is not a a group that has like foreign minorities in it necessarily.
We're not an immigrant country per se.
Yeah. And at the same
But
time,
we are. But what I think we are is that we are a feudal and classist.
classist. Yeah. That's what I was going to say. That there is a certain level of like, yeah, maybe feudal actually was the missing piece that I needed, because I think
We're still feudal.
that is,
Land is still one of the most important things that we have in this country.
well, possession,
And
well, some form of possession at least.
yeah,
And I
but
think,
especially land and property.
yeah, net worth makes right in this country. I think
Yeah,
like we have moved on from the old concept of land serfs, lords and serfs in the terms of like the pure land description of it, because land isn't so much important nowadays as is sheer liquid money.
yep.
And I think the way this has like fused with the modern capitalist society is that neo-feudalism or whatever weird neologism that we might use to talk about it is no longer necessarily power through physical means, but power through authority. First, power through authority, and power through financial influence more than anything.
I think you have it reversed. It's financial influence first, and then that generates the authority, and then that authority is used to keep that financial influence stable.
Oh, yeah, okay. So that's a more concise way of putting it. Yes.
Because you cannot deny the fact that they got there somehow through what means, whether it be perfectly clean or partly shady. We can't really judge.
Yeah.
Rather, we can judge if we have a paper trail, but otherwise,
It's
can't
actually
really
it's kind
But
of as
then-
simple as they got there first. They got there first.
first.
That's how simple it is. We don't even have to put the value judgment on it. They just got there first, and
they got there first.
a lot of the power in this country is concentrated around clans,
Yeah,
like political dynasties and business moguls.
in a sense, political power is king here in the Philippines,
And there is a
even more so than
very
in America. Actually,
unavoidable intersection between the political sector, the entertainment sector, and the business sector. It's
well,
like a
that's because who
trifecta.
controls the entertainment sector is also the media sector. Entertainment and media are intertwined. You cannot get out of that.
Mhm.
And therefore, so politics, they control the legislative and the executive branch, possibly the judicial branch as well. Then they control the fourth estate, which is media.
So in a sense, we were ahead of some developed countries when corporations, or specifically the powerful and rich, have more power over the government than government itself. Or maybe we've even gotten past the point of that to say that the rich and powerful are government and not government itself. Like they have become, their influence is so strong that it supersedes legitimate democracy to begin with.
Okay, now here's a question: do you think we actually have democracy in this country?
Not since power has started amalgamating into clans, no.
But when was that?
As early as post-US independence Philippines. 1950s and 1960s were the beginning of it. There had to have been a situation where the 1970s happened. And the 1970s didn't happen in a vacuum. There had to been. So, because of course, when we talk about that period of history in the Philippines, there was one power in the government. However, what most people don't realize is that there had to have been many people propping that power up to begin with.
Yep.
And there's cronies, right? The crony families.
Yeah.
It's every every person that benefited from that regime continues to have power over the country now.
Hmm.
And things haven't changed ever since. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we tried. We tried to have democracy in this country. We just never gotten around to actually implementing it the way an actual democratic country would have.
Okay. So here's the thing now. How do we get out of this system? Because, well, there's like whenever we have to talk about this in particular, there's always the mention of political will. But the
Yeah,
political will
political
must
will.
come from where?
Because there is the way this is set up is
Where
that,
should it come from? That's the thing.
yeah, there is very little incentive for people in power to relinquish that power in order for the sake of more collectivist progress, in a sense.
Well,
Because
no. Kasi, okay, I need to touch in now on Jon Stewart's the cynicism that he expressed it, because going for a collectivist action, at least in his view, is just not possible from a purely ideological standpoint.
yeah, because
Because,
the US
not just
society
that.
is,
No. Like, Stewart generalizes this
oh, as in
to
for all of the earth,
all of
all of
humanity,
humanity.
that we are fundamentally reductive and sort of individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to work with that framework as well. Kasi like Pierre Lewis argues that we have done a lot of good things working together, which is true, which is inevitably true.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we cannot discount from the fact that humans are also fairly like selfish bastards.
Well, that have to come from somewhere, right?
I mean, you could argue it comes from biology as well. Besides biology,
Sorry,
as
could you repeat
living
that? I
things,
think you broke up for that last sentence.
like it's biology. Both sides have to
Oh,
come from.
oh, geez, that's Dawkins. Like, that's Dawkins, isn't
And
it?
it's
Selfish gene.
no. Well, not really.
Like, sorry, you're just talking to someone who just fundamentally disagrees with a lot of things Dawkins has to say about the humans in general.
Kasi kasi behaviorally, we're both there. We have both altruistic sides to ourselves, and then we also have selfish sides to ourselves. The thing is, how do we tap into both so that we can incentivize progress?
Yeah, I think the realization here is that, wait, what's going on? Uh-oh, I lost my audio in Audacity. Hold on a sec. I Okay, go on. So, what I've been realizing about this whole situation is that the time has come for us to stop thinking ourselves in terms of the one side of the binary, because
Yeah,
humans are a lot more complicated than just being purely good, altruistic, and selfish. It's
like
both. And I
like
think,
we can't do an us versus them, man. At least when if you want, it works for politics. It works fantastic for politics. But once you finish the election, you get back to government, then you realize I have to work with these people.
and I'm in a situation where whoever
And you're
wins
not,
this May, I
yeah,
have to deal with another 6 years of this, whoever president is going to be. And
yeah, exactly. And note that we're fairly reductive because when we think about politics, it's not just the president.
It's everything. It's every single position from the top to the bottom. Yes.
If you want to be reductive about it, don't think of the president. Think of the Senate and the House.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all the action is. All the president does is say yes or
Say
no.
yes or no, but
There's a lot of power there in itself, but
a lot of
all
it
the
is definitely the business.
all
The
of the
reason why we have been so business as usual is because of the House being what it is. It's the House and the Senate, of
yeah,
course.
the House and the Senate are where the actual battle for progress is. Since the thing is, like, assuming that we have proper checks and balances and assuming that nothing goes wrong with regards to those checks and balances, the president is just one figure. So whoever's sitting in Malacanang has a lot of power to say yes or no, but what they're saying yes and no to comes from the Senate and the House.
So in the end, basically, we need better local representation. Is what it is. It
Yes, we need better.
and that's what I always say to people whenever I do have to like talk to people about politics, is because here the way it's been portrayed here, especially in like in lower positions, like the mayors and governors of our
Yeah,
cities and provinces, is that they are the ones who are less likely to want to disrupt the status quo the most. There's
elaborate.
I have been raised, and I think you will relate to this as well, Sele, because both of us are our hometowns, our home provinces, are very well known for having been dominated by one specific clan for the past 20 or so years.
The Chipecos.
In our case, it would have been no, I think I'm talking about one city, but there's also like Governor Urmali's clan in Nueva Ecija as well.
Yeah, the Umali clan in Nueva Ecija. Sa
And
amin
the
naman
and
kasi
the in Congress,
clan.
Violago.
Hmm.
The Violago clan is also very powerful as well in terms of Congress, I think.
Hmm.
And I think the way I've been conceptualizing local politics here is that local politics is the most resistant to inertia. The most it has the most inertia among all the levels I've seen,
I think it's fairly easy to explain as well.
which is
I mean, why do you think why do you think they have such tight hold on power?
because the audience is captive,
Why do you think the audience is captive?
because they have a I don't know. This feels like a very circular reasoning thing. That
It is because they're smaller.
and
It's easier to control a city than to control a nation. Simply because there are way fewer people, it's way more localized.
Mhm.
It's fairly easy to do that to place it the ano.
There is also like
So
the idea that the politicians here in the local scale have such a very deep and ingrained personal relationship with the people.
yeah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. You can use it to your advantage, sure, but that
But
is
I don't
not.
know. It's the conditioning. It's the mental conditioning that I really don't appreciate. Is that progress is duly provided for by our family, who has been running this town for decades, and it's like
I think it's
is
also kasi there's a disconnect between the conception of what the government should be and what the government is. Because the government, in our case, are families.
it's feudal. There's no
It's feudal.
there's no going there's no other argument to it. It is feudal.
It is feudal. That's the thing. It's just the fact that we've transitioned from owning actual land to symbolically owning the land via the local government unit.
Yeah.
Now, that's what we've generally generationally and nationally perceived as a government, a local government. In fact, what our that includes you and me and probably other people who have studied a bit more than the average person.
Mm-hmm.
Our conception of government is that it is a system, a an a personal system. It doesn't matter who's up there as long as they're working the machine that is government correctly, then it should work. So there's the disconnect there. We think of the government
But
as a system that is divorced from personal intention,
but
working working for the benefit of its
yeah.
people.
Yeah.
But what we've been conditioned to know what the govern to think of the government is that we think of the government as an extension of our personal power.
Yeah, it's so weird that they call up the image of like we serve you, but also the reality is that it's less that they are we are being served by them, and more we are being ruled by them.
Well, they provide for us to a certain extent as is necessary for them to maintain their status in the government.
And nothing more for most for the most part, and that's kind of like
For the
disappointing.
most part, bihirang makakita ng actual government high government official that espouses our same outlook of what government should be.
Mm-hmm.
Kasi like without exception, you'd find it in any province with any city. One way or another, there will be someone who has their name plastered in the local ambulance.
But here's the thing, though. Here's to stop with the whole cynical talk that we have. I actually have a counter to this.
Okay, go.
You said before that the president is just one person,
Yeah,
and that most of the power comes from Senate and the House.
yeah.
A similar thing also happens with local government as well. The mayor
Oh,
is just one person,
the mayor is just one person.
but it is the agencies, the city hall, it is the various offices of the mayor,
Konsehal.
like what I'm talking about is things like Senro, for example,
Okay,
the City Environment and National Resources Office, because I work in the environment sector, so
yeah.
Senro is, and like City Planning and Development Office, the various small offices. That's where the change happens.
Hmm.
And for every single project that I ever had to work with a local government directly, it's always the people in those offices that very so closely resemble what it is we think government is.
Hmm.
These are people who are dedicated in the service so much. And I think that's actually like the strongest reason why I believe that it is in the local government where change happens. And the most optimistic ever plans I have for like environment or where quote unquote political will happens, I think it happens in local government in that exact manner where these are people who are doing their job. And I think the idea here is that as long as the intentions of the local government are at least synced with the general idea of progress, change will happen. It's just that I think the only real problem with this kind of system is that if such a policy that is being worked on by the local government is something that is directly unfavorable to the sitting mayor or whoever's in power in terms of their business or possible political prospects. That's really the only fiction that I have ever seen. But the thing is, for the most part, I think the mayors and the government employees are doing are having this good synergy between them, and especially if the local government person, the heads of the agencies are specifically the professionals they should be, they work in the actual field that they're supposed to. They have the educational background and the drive to serve. Things will go well, and that's where the most good I've seen has come from.
So in that case, what's the role of national government?
The national government is, it, I think the way the national government works is that the national government needs to support these programs that the local government wants to do by making sure that, one, the IRA for all of these local governments needs to be delivered well and
Hmm.
without political interference because of partisan reasons. Um,
Unfortunately, that's
yeah,
it's going to be hard to combat, basically.
yeah. That's the.
And that's actually, I think, why we still need people fighting on the national government level to
Mhm.
at least work with whoever other 15 people they're against within the aisle, because unlike the US, which is a two-party system, we are a what party system.
Yeah, what party system?
We are a what party system. So any one individual in the house who actually seeks to make the LGU's lives easier in implementing what good projects they have
Mhm.
needs, well, they have hell going for them, really, but they
Yeah.
have to do it. And it would probably be easier if more of them were actually on the same page,
The story I see
which
here.
is
Sorry, go on.
well, it's something that requires massive political
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
on the part of most of the people who voted them into that position. So importante rin ang party lists.
because
And
they're basically also just Congress seats anyway. So
oh, importante rin ang party lists. And of course, the person voted in doesn't really give in to the pressure of everything.
of the entire machinery that is required for people to stay in power in this country.
Yeah.
So it's benefactors. It's always like big, and I know that there is a reason why a certain presidential candidate has always been extremely specific about the wording they're using.
Hmm.
Like, this candidate is saying stuff like, no, this we are for a government that does not favor billionaires. Like, that's a very specific word to be using. Like,
Yeah, actually.
we are in favor of a government that is not serving the interests of the rich only, and the rich, the capitalists, and the billionaires. Note that, especially because, like, this current government, right? This current admin has completely ruined the nature of the word oligarch for most people.
Yeah.
That optics, the optics. So we now like, the word oligarch has now been associated with, oh, this is pretty much all the clans the president doesn't like.
Yeah.
That's it. That's pretty much what it is.
It's a very good framing tactic, to be honest.
Because the worst part is that it's not wrong,
It's reductive.
but it's
It's not.
reductive AF.
It's reductive, and it's really good in setting an enemy. It's really good in stating like, okay, you have,
It's a catch-all.
have it's a catch-all that allows you to set an adversary
An
That's
adversary.
both faceless and luminous.
Uh, we could talk much about that, but I think that's we're going to be like tangenting away from our main topic, which is
Yeah,
like cynicism and
it's
optimism in terms of climate action, as to
yeah,
what has to happen in the future.
and I think and then I'll be more general. Cynicism and optimism in general with regards to progress in this country.
Oh, you actually we're planning on going more general.
Yep. Kasi like yeah, well, let's go a bit more meta. You've watched the video, right?
Yes.
What do you think about Stewart? Kasi the thing with Jon Stewart is that it's not like he grew to be a cynic. He's always been like that. Eh? Always been fairly critical of you know of government, etc.
I actually don't know
And
what Jon Stewart's background is because I don't really know
he's a
that much about
comedian.
that person in terms of what Jon Stewart's political leanings are, what their
Okay, here's a clue. He was John Oliver's boss
wait where.
back then. Like back like during the Bush era, Jon Stewart had a show called The Daily Show
Mm-hmm.
where he would parody news. Except well instead of parodying news, he was more news than the actual news. And that's where the entire like if you want to trace all of the political comedy, you would trace it back to
Stewart,
Stewart
then
on
Colbert.
TV. Colbert is a bit sketch nowadays.
It's sketch now. Okay.
Colbert is a bit weird nowadays since he panders more to the liberal sentiment as opposed to the less. Because like you'd argue that Oliver is more left leaning
Yeah, mas
in his
consistent ng
approach.
political leanings ni Oliver.
Oh, but Stewart is actually more centrist siya. He ap- he he agrees more with the left policies, but a very he's a staunch centrist with regards to his interrogation methods.
He seems like my impression of him that I got during the interview was that he does not like centralizing power into a government. So that means he may be left leaning in some policies, but nationalizing critical state industries is something that he disagrees with on principle.
He it's you could see why naman eh.
I mean to be fair, it has a very bad track record.
It has a very bad track record eh. So he just does want the US at least to fall into that pitfall, which also then begs the question for us: do we want to centralize some? If we are going to centralize some, which industries should we centralize,
Yeah,
and
this
which
opens up a
ones
can of worms,
shouldn't
especially with regards to
centralize?
like one of the biggest hot button topics in this country is PhilHealth and whether we should privatize it.
Okay,
And healthcare being nationalized right now has been causing so many problems in terms of graft and corruption. But at the same time, I feel like I don't know. It's a catch 22 in the same in the sense that either you deal with the bureaucracy and the red tape and the graft and the corruption, or you privatize it, and we risk going into this exact same trap that the U.S. has been, where it is a very extremely prohibitively expensive to get healthcare because everything has to run by private insurance. And
here's the thing though: I don't have healthcare.
aside from PhilHealth, right? Aside from
I,
what the
I've
government
not
gives us.
I've not been paying my Phil health dues.
Wait, what? Okay.
I haven't been I haven't been paying Phil health
Ever since when?
ever since I stopped working for government.
Oh, oh. I guess I've to be fair, I think I've only ever stopped working for government as of that time frame last year.
And like kasi normally all my PhilHealth payments are automated.
Yeah, because the accounting does it for you.
Accounting does it for me. So I'm just now that I'm freelancing, I was like, what PhilHealth? Oh, SSS.
Yes,
I
yeah,
only have a GS. I only have GSIS.
yeah. These are like
What do
very complicated adulting topics. And even look, I hate it. We are about the same age, and we still have very little idea how to pay taxes in this country.
Yep.
And especially because our
And
jobs are so complicated because we are effectively freelance in a way, and
but hey, at
my
least
my,
you
my,
have.
my tin number classifies me as self-employed. So that's another thing of
Wait, the TIN number has a classification.
no no, when I applied for my tin number, I put like self-employed as my.
I mean, it doesn't really that doesn't count. Your TIN number is with you for life.
Okay, so it doesn't change. Okay.
It doesn't matter whether you're self. Like I when I got my TIN number, it was in government, but
Okay.
now I'm a freelancer. And do you know why I'm going to stay in the condo by May?
Is it just because the UP is going to start doing face-to-face classes again, or?
Hell no. UP probably won't do face to face until second sem next year.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. That's like next year. Wow.
Maybe. And even then, I won't need to do face to face per se.
Because I mean, you're in research phase right now.
Yeah, I'm in research phase. There are two reasons why I'm going, and also May is still in the middle of the
The first semester. Okay.
second sem of this year.
Okay. Okay.
First sem starts in
In
August ish.
August. Yeah, in August.
So
So yeah,
the
you
main
have two
reasons are
reasons.
three actually. Number one, I need to do maintenance on the
The unit itself, yes, because we have not been here for a long while. On both units,
yeah.
actually.
No. The jazz one is fairly okay.
Okay, so just grass. Okay.
Just grass. Like last time I was there, everything was well stagnant to say the least. Dusty.
But at least it's
So I
not
need to
unlivable.
maintenance it. It's not unlivable, but the cleaning, I'm going to have to ask for professional cleaning there. I'm
Okay.
gonna hire
Okay.
some professional cleaning for that,
Mm-hmm.
and then also the electricals. I'll need to have all of the electrical wiring checked in the condo.
Mm-hmm.
Next is May 9.
Which is the date? Which is the date of the elections?
Yeah. Luckily for well, sort of luckily for me, my voting precinct is in
In QC.
QC. Specifically the elementary school next to grass.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third point is taxes.
Yeah, you have to specifically go to that BIR office.
I need to go to that BIR office to register as a freelance. Then I need to process all of my tax documents in order to have an ITR. That way, if ever I do return to government, there will not be any complications. Me tax evading for practically 2 years.
Yeah, this is gonna be
I do
tough. Yeah,
not
yeah.
want to. I do not want to be accused of tax evasion,
Uh,
even though I've been paying my taxes in Japan.
okay. Oh, jeez. Okay, that's another different conversation. Uh,
And of course, there's the fourth reason that I need to visit Kasho. So
you have to visit. Oh, I almost said the other name, but okay, Kasho.
yeah, I need to visit Kasho, take her on dates, etc. So tax,
Yeah, but mostly tax, but mostly financial reasons. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
we have determined right now that it is cheaper for me to just go to the metro like 2 times a month and just rent out a hotel or something because it would be cheaper than paying the entire month. So yeah, finances are still a little bit weird for me still because
Let's say I think that's viable since I'm only going to be in QC for 2 weeks in May.
the good thing is that I think there is not a really urgent need for me to go back to the office as a consultant. There is no need for me to go to the office. There's no reason why I can't just work from home. And my
Yeah.
boss knows that. And they say that no, you don't have to go to the office.
For me, I'm just easing in back into the condo because someone needs to live there.
Yeah.
Someone needs to maintain the condos as well.
Uh-huh.
And like okay, May May I'll be in the May for 2 weeks I'll be in the condos.
Yeah.
And then for the next two weeks I'll be here at home because well it's my mom's birthday then.
Mhm.
So I'll need to be around while doing my research as well and work. So I'll be bringing Casho's laptop with me to everywhere basically.
Okay.
And in June I need to submit my papers for SPP and possibly as well my papers for publication to whatever
Whatever.
international
Yeah. Whatever journal it is.
research journal that I'll need to go through. July is going to be a dry month. I don't know if I'll be in QC or whatever.
I actually
Depends probably
don't know what my prospects
1 or 2 weeks.
are past April
Hmm.
because my contract expires by April.
So yeah, well, hopefully it gets extended.
Yeah. But if it doesn't, then I have an alternate offer. Somebody has given me a job offer somewhere.
Okay, that's good.
Thing is, I don't know if I want. I'm interested in it. I don't want to. I'm not. I don't want to 100% take it though because of reasons.
Is it distance?
Government.
Well, you could take it.
It's government. I'm
DNR?
interested in the job description. I'm just not keen on. I don't know. Do I still feel burnt out from being a government employee? Yes, but at the same time, it's not like that's also kind of where I want to be going in terms of. But it's the thing. If I wasn't employed in the current place where I am now, I would have said yes 100%.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing.
Because working in this company has been like one of my goals almost because
Okay.
this is one of the very few NGOs that is specifically what it is what I'm saying.
That's good.
And I realized that all of my training in grad school has led up to this, even though I'm not exactly in the exact same department that I want to be in.
But it's still technically within your field. It's air pollution, right? It's technically in the air pollution sector, right?
Yes. Now, while I'm still not a field scientist again. Well, I don't think that's still gonna happen in the near future. But
No, you need practice in policy.
I think policy is something I need my I need to have under my belt because I cannot. Well, the realization is that as a field scientist, I need to know what's going on the ground. I think what I I have it. Wow, my speech is not working today. I find it very important to know that, but at the same time, yes, policy is such an overarching part of how things work in this country or really anywhere in the
It
world.
doesn't matter what you know on the ground if you don't know how they're dealing with it in the offices.
That's
That's where policy comes in.
yeah. I think it is kind of a reminder for me that hey, you're working in a system.
Yeah.
Science by itself isn't just going to solve everything, but like even though
Science is a huge part of it.
but it is, I think, a realization for me recently, especially because of my grad school training and what happened in my next job after that. That
Yeah.
I have to lobby as much as I research.
Well, not you directly per se.
Although,
You need,
I'm part of an organization that does the lobbying for me, but
yeah. You need to talk to the
yeah, I need to talk
to do
to
the
government. Yeah,
yeah. to no, not the government necessarily, since the government's one thing, but then there's also the private sector, which
Mhm.
also like I would have wanted to discuss how the private sector also plays into a vida.
Oh, I actually do have something to say about that. Actually,
Okay, go for it.
logistics specifically.
Hmm.
Major logistics corporations have started to transition to EVs unprompted.
Unprompted,
Unprompted.
but it's still costing them.
It's costing them. It's basically CSR.
Okay, so what? So if some of them have already started the transition, what are the incentives for the private sector? What incentives will they get once Evida, if Evida is an
If every day is passed,
yeah?
no, when every day is passed, I'm just gonna say that right now. I'm pretty sure that we're gonna get it to pass.
Okay,
Okay. The for private sector, I think the it's tax incentives for sure. They
okay,
companies should be able to have it slightly easier to acquire EVs from, especially if they want to import EVs, especially, yeah, that will make it really easy. It's going to uh, set provisions for what kind of EV infrastructure do we need here. So yeah, it's going to specify, okay, we are going to accept these standards because there are a bunch of very different standards for electric charging.
okay.
I'm going to put in a little side note here. Tesla is being Tesla and not cooperating.
Sasuga. I don't
Tesla's
ex-
charging protocol is incompatible with everything else.
I don't expect much from Tesla.
We're talking about CCS. CCS is the European standard, for example. So I think like we have CCS, which is the European standard. We have Shademo, which is the Japanese standard,
Yeah,
and the Chinese standard, which doesn't really have a name. It's just a serial number.
good enough.
And the recent improvements in that is that China and Japan are working on CHAdeMO 3.0, which is the improved version that combines both standards.
Oh, that's good.
So so there's less of an issue. That's going to be like even less of an issue in the future as well. So
Better transition.
so this is specifically for DC fast charging, and DC fast charging is going to be critical for EV infrastructure in the future because, well, you want to charge your car in less than an hour, right?
Yeah.
So DC fast charging will allow you to do exactly just that. So we
Hmm.
actually already have sort of what we call level 1 and level 2 charging, um, which it's predicated on how much electricity you're drawing from the grid in terms of kilowatt hours. Level 1 charging is literally just plugging it into an outlet that does the same power output as your typical charging. What do you call those?
Charging
Receptacles, I guess. Yeah.
charging
Char-
stations.
like the same way you would charge you'd plug in a charging head for your phone in any normal power outlet.
Yeah.
Level 2 is more specific, and it deals with like higher power loads, like 9 kilowatt hours and higher. And then
Hmm.
there's DC fast charging. DC fast charging is going to be like really fast. We're talking
How
like
fast?
we're the charging an an entire sedan in 15 minutes.
15. Okay. That's impressive.
We
That's
can do
impressive.
that. We can do that already with existing technology.
Okay. What's the average mileage
Mi-
for
Mileage
a
for
full charge?
let's start with sedans. Sedans are expected to run from an average of 110 to 160 kilometers on one charge.
Not bad.
That's why I actually said earlier that range anxiety isn't going to be that much of a problem if people would just like charge their vehicles properly.
But
Just
that
charge.
also
Just charge whenever
yeah,
you get the chance to. You'll be fine.
yeah. But that also well Well, that statement is also a bit sketch for me. Kasi
But yeah,
there
because
are
of course you're going to need to have like EV infrastructure, charging stations in the public, especially along highways.
not just that, not just that. I'm talking about battery charge cycles, etc.
Okay.
Uh,
So for the integrity of uh,
the integrity of the battery
we
itself.
are planning on. What is I think the research consensus that we have to start moving away from lithium ion.
Yeah, because that's a common problem with lithium-ion batteries is that they have a limited charge cycle, and if you charge them too much, it's going to be bad for the battery itself.
Yes, it is
If you charge them,
also very environmentally unsustainable for the near future.
but then that also ties into our nickel problem.
Yes. So now there are possible researchers on battery technology, especially in what people are calling solid state batteries, which are
Okay.
expected to be like the future of EV batteries. And
Yeah.
I think the future is that we are going to be able to figure out ways to improve on battery technology,
Hmm.
and those technologies will actually come sooner than later. I am
How soon?
expecting it in the next 10 years or less.
The usual answer.
Yeah, no, because the
Well,
research is already
the or
ongoing.
less,
We've
the or
already
less is promising. The or less is promising
yeah, it's
because people.
promising because we've already started testing it already. Like, tests are being
Yeah.
conducted on the new battery designs. That's all I see. The UP is already doing that,
Good.
and there's also UP is also doing research in terms of like how are we going to make electrical motors use less electricity, for example.
Yeah.
Because that's also very important because if you can make electrical motors use less electricity, there's no need for high battery chargers.
Yeah, and it's going to be more efficient as well.
Yeah. There's
Which
also
also, which also like gets me thinking. If the mileage was that good, then they should be better. They should be also really much better as local government public transport infrastructure.
wait, what do you mean?
Because imagine if you have 100 kilometers on a single charge.
Note that okay, so for public transport, the numbers are a little spottier because we've been talking about cars that are specifically made by automobile manufacturers for the sake of like being analogous to what cars nowadays. For EVs used by the public transport sector, like jeeps, like jeeps, the range for those is a little lower, but on average it should be around 80 kilometers. But here's an
That's still
asterisk.
good.
Here's an
That's still good.
asterisk.
Okay, okay.
No, it's a positive asterisk actually. It's 80 kilometers, and the problem with combustion engines is that you still use fuel when you're stopped.
Yeah,
That's not the case with electric vehicles. When you're stopped, you don't use any power.
yeah.
That's an inherent advantage of EVs already. In fact, the range is already expected to go up specifically because our traffic is so bad, which is such an interesting thing when you think about it. Because our traffic is so bad, and we are expecting our vehicles to stop more often, they are consequently slightly more efficient than we expect them to be.
Not just slightly. Way more efficient actually. If your electric vehicle, if you're going to be stuck in traffic anyway, might as well not use energy.
Well, some energy
The
will be
car
used for things like lights and the onboard because apparently,
that's inconsequential
but yeah, it's inconsequential.
compared to the power needed in order to drive the car.
Yeah.
So
If
that's one incentive that the government could have in with regards to subsidizing the transition
to electric vehicles,
to
yeah, I think it's
electric
also a matter of
vehicles.
public perception. I think the public should be more to be exposed to EVs more because I think it's a technology that is both new and novel and actually kind of what we need in order to
As long as you don't get me in a self-driving car, I'm good with electronic
Oh,
vehicles.
good. You know that's no look. The whole self-driving car thing is just Tesla. That's just Elon Musk
It's just
talking.
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, don't get me near his grubby little slimy.
Like I'm pretty sure that Porsche doesn't want to do that. Like for example, like
No decent, no decent
no
automobile
decent
company.
automobile manufacturer wants to go with that. Like, oh, the future is in AI and self. No, we don't want to put that in our cars. We want Android in our cars. Android works.
Yeah,
It's nice. Sorry. It's interesting that car manufacturers have started adopting Android as their like OS instead of like something more proprietary. That's interesting.
well, it's easier to develop on, I think.
It's also better like over time, like support
Yeah,
wise. But yeah, it's like it's definitely a matter of like the very different motivations behind development of EVs. It's like, look, there are tech people that think more concept and not necessarily like in terms of how practical the actual technology is. We're talking about Hyperloop.
yeah.
Like the Hyperloop is just basically like,
It's just a train system.
and
A
not
train.
even a particularly efficient one because it relies on uh, cars to already exist as their actual like payload slash carriage.
It's a rail system for rich introverts
Yeah, it's
or
it. Yeah,
psychopaths,
it's like
depending on.
it's not even a it's not even a proper mass transit system. Like I thought it
It's
was
not.
gonna I thought Loop was gonna be a mass transit system. It's not.
It's a highway. It's an automated highway. It's an automated one-lane highway.
It's like, okay, why did we do this? Why did we develop this? Like buses are infinitely more efficient than this. I'm like, really?
I can fit one to four people in this hyperloop at any given time interval.
Yeah, sorry. That's just a tangent. Like if you knew both, then Sele and I, we like to crap on venture tech people all the time anyway. So
I mean, well, I've been a bit more mellow with that recently because there are some venture capitalists that are doing sort of good stuff, but the bad ones are just bad.
yeah,
You just don't get coverage from them because, like the latest Musk tweet or Theranos, catchy. We don't hear enough of the actual good stuff. It's always the sensational stuff.
yeah. The bad stuff is usually things like AI development. Honestly, I don't know.
I mean,
No, no.
AI
Okay,
is
maybe it's not bad, but it's more of like AI development has been like in put into very weirdly specific technologies that for some reason are racist.
it's all in. You can argue it's in the training set, but that's not AI is not my field. You'll have to ask either Marilia or Duke to get on
On
discuss AI,
machine learning. Okay, yeah.
machine learning, etc. Because that's where their field is.
Yeah, and my
It's not
field
like
is my field is measuring things as they happen, and also like writing a lot of papers about what policy we should be lobbying for, and
yeah,
being
well,
stuck in a bunch of high end hotels for some days where
who pays
there's a
for
bunch
those
of like
hotels?
really important people and trying not to like okay, there's a bunch of very important people in here. I have to like convince people to
Who pays
do
for those
something.
hotels? Who pays for those hotels?
The DOE, the government.
Good. I thought you're paying them out of pocket. That
No,
would have been
no,
that
no,
would have
no.
sucked.
They would never do that. When I worked for UN, at least it came from their pocket as well.
That's good. But yeah, like Like you're in policy. I have friends on AI, and I have friends. I'm
In
either
where?
in
In where? In where?
I have you, I have Barilla and Duke. We also have the lawyer.
Oh, the lawyer. Yeah, the lawyer. The
The
lawyer is
lawyer.
very important in terms of like labor because the lawyer is a labor lawyer as far as I know.
He wants to get on the show. He wants to get on an episode just talking about urban planning.
Yeah, that's
I think
interesting
that's
because he wants to get on the show about urban planning, not labor. Okay, that's interesting.
yeah. He wants to talk about urban planning, which is something that I'm also quite interested in. But that's for another time when
Yeah,
he's free.
that would have been an interesting thing in my previous job, but I also don't have the education for it. Unfortunately, I would have needed to take a degree in urban planning from SERP in order
Yeah.
to even like function in my previous job. As I found out, uh
Meanwhile, I'm just a dilettante. Well, okay, fine. I can't say I'm just a dilettante because I'm also an astrophysicist, but I'm just an astrophysicist in this in this context.
yeah, I'm just a person. Like honestly,
But you,
at the end of
we're
the
talking
day,
about policy. We're talking about policy right now, so you're the expert, quote unquote, in this.
oh no, then that means I really need to be reading more. I've mostly been confined to the things that I've been working on so far, but you know what? I maybe I should definitely start reading a lot.
Well,
Well,
enough for
look,
your work at least.
grad school training has been a thing, so I know at least how to read. So it's more of yeah. I think I need to like step it up a lot.
Pity the fool who can read.
No,
But yeah,
not just read and like understand exactly what it is that's going on because we have been doing a lot of what my team members have been doing a lot of like nitty gritty calculations, and I need to actually participate in some of them tomorrow because we need to be submitting something to our client on Tuesday as of the recording on this as of the recording of this.
well,
I need to be going to the office on Tuesday.
oh, so nasortigas ka.
Yeah, I'm going to Ortega's on Tuesday.
Say hi for the derp to the derps for me. Assuming you run into them, but they all went to party today.
Yeah, today. They all went today. I might meet the lawyer on Wednesday or something. Maybe we'll see.
Go eat Indian food with him or something.
In Ortigas?
There are some places he knows them.
He knows them. Yeah. Uh, if somebody knows where the good food places are, it's the lawyer.
Yeah,
Ah,
but yeah, I think we've done good for this session.
yeah. This has
It's
been a
almost
really good session of the Tawagoto Cafe so far.
yeah. It's like we're getting back into our juju,
Yeah. Oh yeah. You
and we're still
also
learning.
yeah to lead us out. I actually wanted to ask you about something because we
Okay,
also have another topic that is kind of it's a good transition because we already started talking about food and you wanted to talk about best ever food review show.
I think I'll talk about best ever food review show because best ever I want to talk about it in the context of media itself.
Oh, so maybe you want to specifically do a specific session about that? Oh yeah, that's gonna come in the future.
Yeah, because well, I would want to talk about the history as well that I personally have with the food shows,
Yeah.
like the the big three as Adam. Well, no, not Adam Richman. Uh, Andrew Zimmern puts it. Him, Adam Richman, and Tony Bourdain,
Hmm.
and they really shaped the food media landscape back then. Like it was the Food Network, among other things. Food Network and
Hmm.
then Discovery TLC.
Hmm.
And that's something that it's mostly just going to be me rambling on nostalgia that I felt back then. And then,
Nostalgia.
yeah, and then relating it to the current YouTube driven food show scene now.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah. I don't know. For one, like there is a certain kind of content that became really popular. eventually on YouTube.
It's not just a certain. I won't say a certain kind of content. A certain set of styles
Yeah,
of content.
it's more than one particular style, for sure.
Yeah, because then you have the BuzzFeed style that is presented by About to Eat, for example. Then you have the style by Josh Weissman, and then you have the style by Babish, and it it's not. They're not intermeshed. I
Hmm.
won't say they're intermeshed.
Yeah, that's interesting because like I think About to Eat is like this the corporate style, very produced kinds of shows. Although About to Eat is like less than like it's very compared to old to Condé Nast content. It's far less produced than that.
I'd argue that About to Eat is more geared towards an ASMR like experience of food.
Oh,
Then,
especially when you go and check out the individual channels, Inga's and Alvin's personal channels, especially.
and I think that, and there's also an interesting intersection about how About to Eat does things. With the Chinese cooking channel Lisiki.
No, but so
There's a Chinese
the only channel I follow for Chinese cooking right now is Chinese cooking demystified.
they're another style altogether actually. Chinese cooking demystified. Chinese cooking demystified is on the same vein as Ethan Kelbowski and Adam Ragusia in terms of the
Oh yeah,
content.
yeah, and also like there's also a channel called My Name is Andong, who is
Yeah,
I
and
think
mine
similar.
is Andong as well.
It's very similar in terms
I
of like
follow
food history.
I
Yeah.
follow a lot of food shows, almost as much as I did when I was a kid. So that's something that I'll be talking about
Oh, yeah.
next.
Whenever we get around to that episode, yeah.
Yeah,
This has been like an extended taste taste of what's gonna come up in the next time we are going to talk about this in Tawagoto Café live.
call it a sampler.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wonder if we can do a live recording
Oh, by then.
eventually.
Oh, by then actually. Okay. So another teaser is that we are planning something, an off collab with Goro Canada.
Yeah,
Uh, and I'm not sure how exactly we're gonna be able to do that to begin with, but it involves us having to actually meet up at an actual physical location and record stuff there. So
I mean it'll probably be at my place anyway.
it will be at your place. We don't need to actually like no. The only video footage we're gonna need is the food. We don't need to
Yep.
show ourselves during it, but we do need to be in the same place. We need to this. Wait, do I have to bring this to your condo again? This
What
entire
is
recording
this?
setup.
I have my own mic.
Oh yeah. Then that
I
means
don't know.
I guess I could just
You,
bring the mixer.
no. You might need your own portable.
Ah, okay, okay. Yeah, I think I can manage. I can figure out what to do with that then.
If you have your own portable mic, then that's good. Mine is portable as heck.
Yes, it is. Mine is literally a lapel mic. So
Okay, good.
by that time, I can also literally just purchase another one because that's how cheap they are.
Yeah. I mean, to note, my schedule for May is
Yeah, yeah, let's talk about that mostly off stream. I think we're not gonna be able to do that specific off collab in May. Maybe sometime later in the year.
I'm thinking October.
Yeah, because note Goro's work schedule is also very night shift because he works a night shift.
Oh,
He cannot
hmm.
be bothered on weekdays after 5 o'clock because 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. is when his shift starts.
What about
Weekends
Sundays?
are fine.
Yeah. Since on October there is SPP,
Mm-hmm.
there's the SPP
SPP.
conference, and I voted to have it be held here in Manila. Although, well, I know everyone else is going to like, vote for Bicol or someplace, so I don't know if I'll be in Metro Manila in October
Oh, I see. I see.
during SPP in that time duration, but I will definitely be in Metro Manila.
Hopefully, I'll still have a job by then. But
Here's to hoping.
Just hoping. No, 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 no. If I accept the alternate job offer, I will have at least 1 year of having a job,
Okay.
or at least up until the
I
end of
on the,
2022 at least
yeah. I, on the other hand, will still be working for cover.
for cover and possibly whoever commissions you, like Nori Pro.
Noripro hasn't commissioned me in a while. I don't know why.
I don't know. Maybe it's because you work for cover.
No, because they said they'd want more translation from me.
Maybe it's because they just haven't had the opportunity to actually do that. We'll
Yeah, they
see.
haven't actually had the opportunity to make the remaining episodes yet
Yeah,
of that
there's only been
project.
literally one,
It's actually two,
two. Oh, okay, two, but yeah.
but yeah, some other time.
Some other time. It's so.
I'm expecting Big Bang anyway.
Okay, so there hasn't been anyone. People have come and gone and watched this stream. I can see people in the users section of our chat, but not they haven't like actually like chatted. There is among those
Yeah,
people is a name that I recognize. So hello, thanks for watching our stream.
and that's fine. I don't expect people to watch this show.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. It just specifically because we are about to close out, and I usually do closing out streams by going to the portal screen, which I do not have which we are not doing in this stream because there is no reason to do that. There is no
There's no
reason
reason.
for us to go to the portal screen this time.
What do you want us to like go show the portal screen like the problem with Jon Stewart?
No, that's gonna get us in trouble with copyright, I think. So let's just not do that.
Exactly. No, we're not doing that.
And also, the portal is not equipped to do that, so I can't do that.
The portal is equipped now to go into Apple TV Plus.
It's not. It doesn't work like that. But yeah, so that has been Tawagoto Cafe. Let's see when we're gonna be able to do this next. But it was nice being able to talk with you again.
Yep.
I feel like look the just before we started this stream, I felt like I didn't have the spoons to do this. But once I got on the go, I was like, it feels so naturally like I'm back. And I've you
Uh,
I have definitely have you to thank for this because oh my god I'm actually talking with Seele again.
I mean, well, I'm also trying to. When I was watching, like whenever I watched John Oliver perform an interview, I was like, "Damn, he good.
Yeah.
He's even better now than he was years ago with regards to his how he grills his uh, how he grills his the people that he interviews.
Yeah, ever since
That's
26
something I aspire to.
ever since the past few seasons like the 2020 I guess like ever since the pandemic started like I feel like John Oliver's content has been more incisive when it
It
needs to
is
be.
because it is. We have his writers
To thank for
to
that.
thank for that as
Oh
well.
yeah, we actually got a taste of that during the critical race theory episode because at some point they outright just let one of the writers talk and it's like
Yeah,
it's amazing.
it's great. It's great how he provides a platform while still maintaining his voice
As John Oliver, but a
as a
lot of it
as a
is
man
credited to the
in a human fursuit.
yeah. It's we have a lot of thank for John Oliver's writing team because it
Yeah,
without them they would be not a show that is as good as what it is right now.
yeah. He'd just be another white man,
Yeah,
and he'd take that as a compliment, and he'd take that as both a compliment
a compliment and what
and an insult.
and an is. So do what enjoy this. This has been the end of episode 11.
This has been Tawagoto Cafe. Thanks for tuning in, you weirdo.
The weird, the weirdos who are sort of been watching this stream now, and when this episode actually goes up on YouTube, which is sooner than you might think, hopefully, because because episode 10 and 11 aren't going don't I'm going to be leaving them unedited too.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Here's the thing. If I'm involved, no cuts.
I think You know what? I think I'm amenable to that now. It actually does force myself to like practice more, but at the same time, you know what? That's exactly this is exactly the vibe that we're trying to go for nowadays. Now that I really think about it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Like, do you think, like, whenever we talk in bowls, do you think that, oh, I said something wrong. Hold on, let me edit that out. Do you think you can do that? Hell no.
yeah, I think I'm being comfortable with the whole unedited concept of the show now. I think.
Like, you could do your, like the video editing thing is a skill set that you do need as a streamer. But in terms of communicating stuff like this, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You just need to communicate it properly.
yeah. And I'm up for the challenge. Is what it is because
Besides,
it makes me better at life.
it's better for policy as well, for communicating policy.
Yeah.
It's better for your job, at least.
Look, I actually have really no problems with presenting. It's just that I do need to like really, really, really study the material beforehand.
See, it's the same thing.
It
It's
is
the
the same
same
thing.
concept,
Yeah, it is.
except now it's just like in the form of like discourse in a sense,
Yeah,
as opposed to just closed door meeting with the client.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be different from here on out.
Yeah.
And I think
So yeah,
for year three is going to be the one time where I'm just gonna leave our episodes unedited.
besides, it's easier.
It's easier. It's easier.
It's just easier to do. You
Yeah.
won't like you already have a ton of stuff on your plate. Whenever we do this, it's just going to be straight uploaded onto you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I realized that hey, between this and the other videos that I'm planning on uploading to the Teammate Dimension channel, speaking
It's way
of,
too much work
it's
for
way too
you.
much now. Especially I'm alone in this.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't show up. Oh well, whatever. That's fine. It only shows up in Twitch chat, but we know what. Uh, we upload.
Whatever.
This is the channel that we're uploading our this entire episode to. There's a channel called Teammate Dimension. It will come up, and I will tweet about it this time.
And tweet about the last one too.
Okay, okay, sure. Okay,
Anyway. Yeah, let's close.
yeah, let's close. What should we leave our audience with at the end?
Climate policy is complicated.
But we need to
But
basically,
we still need to push for it.
yeah, it's complicated and it's gonna be messy and people are going to be cynical. But I think that just trying at all and optimism is necessary. I think because if we don't even dare to think differently, then what's the future gonna be? Let's close.
I mean, it's not like we're doing this for ourselves, really. If we were doing the like, oh wait, the thought left me along
Yeah,
with some
yeah,
earwax.
that was supposed to be how it was gonna end.
The thought left me along with some earwax. But anyway,
Yeah.
we're not doing this for ourselves, to be honest. We should just do it anyway.
We should just do it.
Like, okay, we die, we don't, whatever.
We still need
It's
to
better.
do it. Yeah.
It's better. It's better overall to just do it. There's nothing to lose, literally,
Yeah.
at this point. So
Alright.
yeah, Tawagoto Café Studio. Bye bye.
Right. See you. See you around.
Okay, how do you usually close your streams?
I don't have an end spiel.
You don't have an end spiel.
But my end spiel is usually okay. The next stream is going to be so and so. Good night.
That's good enough.
But I can't do it with this stream because I'm not streaming as Denryu Rider today. I'm streaming as like Teammate Dimension today.
Okay, that's true.
Okay, the next episode is episode 10 will be coming out on YouTube early this April. See you tonight.
Okay. I was trying to help you with your Niji audition, but okay.
Do I can we say that?
I mean, yes. It's not like the results of the audition are secret,
Okay, yeah.
but the audition proper itself is like anyone can anyone can audition.
Sure. Yeah, let's go with that. Let's go with
Anyway,
right.
bye.
Bye.